Hey, good evening, good evening. Happy Monday. I hope you had a successful Monday. I hope you also looked at Monday as a positive day and the start to a great week rather than, excuse me, how a lot of people see Mondays as like, it's Monday. I put a little bit of a question out yesterday, I think, saying which of these three songs do you think of when you think of Monday? And one was the Boomtown Rats, I Don't Like Mondays. The other was the Bangles, Manic Monday, and then the other was by Louis Armstrong, and It's a Wonderful World. Hopefully, you guys see it as a wonderful world. If you think of it as, I hate Mondays or Manic Monday, then that's why I want to continue to talk to you about 10 Steps to Freedom and how you can use that and that thought process to actually change your life and change your outlook, so it does actually produce a life of freedom that you enjoy. All right? I know that sounds, to some it sounds a bit far fetched, but it really isn't. You can do it. You've got the ability to do it. So tonight I'm just looking at my phone just so I make sure I get the any comments from you guys. So again, feel free to put comments in the comments box. Ask me any questions. Hey David, I'm going to put this up on the screen there. David says, "One day is just another day for me," and that's good, David. It's every day. Listen, and this is how I say, every day is another is full of opportunities, right? It's another day to make a difference in the world, to make a difference to yourself, to make a difference to other people. See, Eric's watching and Paul O'Leary is watching as well. So, thanks guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So, I wanted to this week. I intend to sort of come on to Facebook Live, not for long every night, but just a little way. Hey Eric, good evening to you too, sir. Just to share some thoughts and also just remind you guys that I've got that live call coming up on Thursday. I know Eric and David are both registered for it already. And the live call is more of a free teaching on my book, 10 Steps to Freedom. And what I wanted to come and talk to you about today was actually a conversation I had with Eric earlier today, and Eric he's read through the whole of my book, which I'm so thankful for, and I know David's reading it too. And the question was, how do you when we're working full time and we're looking to change our lives, to change what's going on, how do you find the time to do that, right? How do you take that from a thought, and how do you know when is the right time to start moving forward? Well, hey Judy and hey Jason, thanks for tuning in. Good evening, Judy. The question or the answer is that now, right, is the right time to start. And the reason being, if a thought has come into your mind, whatever you believe in, that where those thoughts come from, that thought has come into your mind for a reason, and it's something that you need to act on, right? Because if you don't act on it, the thought will come in and it will go, and those thoughts don't generally stay in our minds very long. They come and go really, really quickly. So if you truly want to change your life and do something with it, you need to act on those thoughts. Now, that then leads to the question, well, like, how do you find the time? And this is one of the things where I touch briefly in the book, but I'll go more into it in the teachings that I do. There is a definite science to this, if you like, and you can look at the 80-20 rule, which is actually the Pareto principle. It's more commonly known as the 80-20 rule. And I also am a big believer in prioritizing and scheduling your tasks and your time. Excuse me. And I was explaining this to Eric a little bit today. And the Pareto principle, first of all, says that 20% of your tasks will result in 80% or bring 80% of your results. So therefore 80% of what you do brings 20% of the results. So what you need to do is focus on the 20% that's bringing the better results, and the 80% that isn't generating the results you want, or is generating less of them, you either need to delegate to somebody else, to put off to another day, right? If and again, I'll talk about that in a moment, or dump it, right, completely. Because it could be that we're hanging on to tasks that we think we should be doing or we think we ought to be doing, but in reality, they're not something that we either enjoy doing or bring us the results. So why do we hang on to it? People are big believers of having all these big long to do lists, and they get through the to do list. There's always things there, and what they do is they move it on to the next day. Well, if you're consistently moving something on to the next day, it shouldn't be on your to do list because it's not something you want to do, and it's obviously not benefiting your life. Yeah, David says he likes structure. I like structure too. So, so when you look at it, the way of establishing what you can do is to prioritize your tasks. So look at priority, look at everything that you do and list it down, and then rank it in order of importance, like one through however many you've got, and then look at those tasks and say, are they tasks that only you can do, or are they tasks that other people could do and could help you with? Are those tasks high importance, i.e. they've got an urgency level, they need doing sort of fairly importantly, or are they a low importance? And in I don't think it's in the resources that I'm offering with this, but certainly I can let you guys have it. If anybody wants it, just ask for it. There's a quadrant that I talk about prioritizing, and you basically put all your tasks into the quadrants, and the ones that come into the high priority that only you can do, they are the tasks that really you need to concentrate on. The high priority that other people can do, then again, see if you can delegate some of those tasks to other people. The low priority that only you can do, you need to schedule time for those, but again, don't start doing those if you've got higher priority tasks, even if you prefer those low priority tasks rather than the high priority. This is where the discipline comes into it and the structure. And then the things that are low priority that anybody can do, get off your plate. All right, you don't need them on there. And so then when you've done your prioritizing and you've said, okay, so these are the tasks that I need to do. These are the high importance. These are the low importance. Then you start to schedule time in your calendar to do those things. Now, if you're looking at starting a sideline business, or if you're looking at personal growth or whatever, and you're working full time, what you need to do is look at block out your work day, the time you go to work, and that includes your travel time, and then you'll see what time you've got left, and then the time that you've got left. So let me give you an example from my journey that I shared with Eric today. When I was in my full-time role with Disney, I was like 8:30, 9 o'clock till sort of 6 o'clock with Disney. So it meant that I generally left home about 7:45, 8 o'clock, and I would generally get home somewhere around 6:30ish. So I would block that time out. And then I knew that it takes me 15, 20 minutes to get ready and have breakfast. So I'd block out the half an hour before I had to leave for doing that. I'd block out time in the evening for dinner. I'd block out time in the morning and time in the evening for taking the dogs for a walk. And then I'd look at it and say, okay, so what are the other tasks I need to do? What can I do in the morning? What can I do in the evening? So then I worked out and said, okay, well, I need to get up earlier. So I actually started getting up at 5:30 every morning. And at 5:30, I had a routine. I would do meditation. I would do reading / learning, right? And do some work. And I'd do all of that before I took the dog for a walk. And then I'd have my breakfast, then I'd get ready, then I'd go to work. When I came home, it was like take the dog for a walk, have dinner, maybe have some personal time depending on your situation. And then it's like, okay, now I need to do some work, so block time for work. And I would do this at the weekends as well. All right, so my calendars were all sorted that way. So I knew that I had this time, and I would build in what I called Whitespace, which is the time for me, right? The time where I'm just doing relaxation. So either going for a run or going for a cycle, going to the movies, going out with your significant other, whatever it is, you need to build that time into your calendar as well. And that way you'll find you're like much more productive. Now, I would apply that at work in the same way, and that's how I stayed organized with all of the tasks that I had to do and all of the direct reports that I had. And so I passed that on to the direct reports. They started doing it, and comments were coming back to me from them saying, I've got more time now to do other things. Yes, because we'd structured it, right? And if we, what I would say is, if you've got a task that you put it in your calendar, and I really don't want you guys working on any one thing any more than 90 minutes, because after that your mind starts to wander. So what you should do is block like an hour to an hour and a half to work on it, then block maybe 15 minutes that is just, you get up and you go for a walk around the house, or you go into the garden, whatever you want to do, and then you go back to a task. But calendarize that, schedule it all, put it in your calendar. And if you're at work, Judy, I know you have like a multitude of tasks to do at work. So, this would probably relate to you. You may well do it already. But I'd look at it and say, Monday morning, sort of like 9 till 9:30, I would go around and talk to all my team. And then 9:30 till 10:30, I'd do my weekly reports. And then 10:30 till 11:30, I'd do whatever. Now, the thing you need to do when you're doing that is make sure that if you've blocked a certain amount of time for that task, is when you get to the end of that time, you stop that task that you're doing and you move on to the next one. Okay, and then you do the next one. Otherwise, what happens is you'll end up like getting sort of engrossed in one task. You'll get to the end of the day and say, oh man, I didn't do all of these things. And so you have to be disciplined in that. You have to make that time and make those switches. What will happen, in my experience, is that the time that you're actually working on it is much more productive. You don't get wasted time. You're not checking emails or whatever because you're concentrating on that task, and then maybe you'll build in 10 minutes to check emails, right? And then you check your emails and you move on to the next thing, right? But you're concentrating on one thing. Judy says she likes it. Judy, it works. I promise you. I like yourself. I was running like big operations, and it's the only way I could cope with it, and so therefore I taught my teams to do the same thing, and it really does work. So I'm glad you like it. So prioritizing, scheduling, the tasks that I'm talking about, which are the lower priority that still need doing, but maybe they don't need doing for a certain time. When you build those into your calendar, what you do is you look at it, and let's say I had a project that needed doing in 6 weeks' time, right? It needed to be completed in 6 weeks' time. And I looked at it and I said, okay, I estimate that's going to take me 12 hours worth of work. And what I need to do is schedule in my calendar 2 hours per week to work on it. Or maybe I'd schedule 3 hours per week to work on it to get it done a little bit early and give me time to review it. Not just say, oh, well, I don't need to do that for 6 weeks and then put it off, and then guess what, in 5 weeks' time, suddenly it's like, oh man, now that's high priority, right? And I'm rushing to get it done. So think about that. A great example is with learning. If I said to you, could you afford to take, let me get the math right. I think it was like 8 or 9 weeks of work time to dedicate to learning and personal development and growth. Right, most people would probably say, no way. Judy's probably like freaking out with her team saying, I can't give everybody eight weeks of training time. Correct, you can't in one block. However, could you afford 1 hour per day, right, to dedicate to your personal growth, whether that's reading, whether it's listening to podcasts, whether it's going on to calls and so on, 1 hour per day? The answer is yes, you can make that time, right? And if you do that over the course of a year, that's 365 hours. And 365 hours, if you've got a 40, let's say a 45-hour week, you're suddenly creating, you're actually spending roughly 8 to 9 weeks of work time or dedicated time to your learning and personal growth. Right, so we can do it, but we have to make that time, and we make that time by prioritizing, scheduling, and and actually then sticking to that. It comes back to everything that I talk about in the book and what I'm going to talk about again more on Thursday and in sort of ongoing things. It's making sure that you've got that desire and purpose, and it's top of mind. Because if that desire is strong enough and your purpose is strong enough, you will make this time to make things come true. Uh, I know it because I've done it. I've done it in my own life. And when I went full time then in my business, when I left my full time role at Disney, guess what? I stopped prioritizing and scheduling because I thought I've got all this time. And what happened is I was less productive. I was actually more productive when I was working full time and doing this as a side gig. So now I've actually taken 2 part-time jobs and I do other things. Just it forces me to actually calendarize and schedule things. And that helps so much. It helps your productivity. It helps you stay engaged. It helps you be more effective in the work that you're doing. All right. When I would get up in the morning and say, oh, I've got all day to do whatever I want to do, I'd very often get to lunchtime and I'm like, I haven't done anything. Whereas now I'll schedule that time and I'll block that time so I know that by certain times I've achieved the task that I want to do. I'm back to that again, and it feels so much better, and it truly it works. So that was really what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. If you're watching, if you haven't signed up for the live call on Thursday, I'm going to put a link in here that you can do it. Or you can actually, if you go to my website, chris-j-baker.com, right at the very top, you'll see a bar across there that says register for the live call on August the 8th. You can just click on that and register. And that will get you, it will send you, it will register for that, put you in the program, and in there is the call-in details for the call on Thursday. It's 8:30 Eastern time. Now, don't worry if you can't make it live, because I am going to record the call, and that will be placed in that in your sort of library in your online portal as well when you register, so you can go back and listen to it whenever you want to. Even if you're listening live, you can go back and listen to it again and again. And what I encourage all of you that are coming on there is come with questions. You know, if you've received your copy of the book and you're reading it now, what questions have you got? What takeaways have you got? What stands out for you as something that is like an aha moment, or something that you just want me to maybe sort of elaborate on a little bit more? Because it's very difficult, almost impossible in a book to give you, I can't give you everything in a book and say, there you go, you touch it and the magic transfers and suddenly you've transformed your life. That won't work. The magic comes in the application of the book, and that's why, you know, I recommend you read the book all the way through. At the end of each chapter, there are a set of questions, but don't worry too much about those as you go through the first time. Read the book and then go back, and then as you're going through each chapter, then start looking at the questions. And then it's a question of applying it, you know, because if you don't apply what you've learned, it's not going to do any good for you. It's talked on the launch call about how you know, my sort of mentor John Maxwell says that people will say that knowledge is power, but it's not knowledge is power. It's evaluated knowledge is the power. In other words, what do you do with that knowledge? If you just know it and you keep it up here and you never actually apply it, you never do anything with it, then it's useless, right, and powerless. When you start to apply it in your life and you start to make a difference with that knowledge that you've learned and share that knowledge, then it becomes gold. All right, so that's the journey I want to help take you guys on and be your guide through that journey. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for all the likes. Thanks for the comments. So David, Judy, Eric, pleasure to have you all join in, and everybody else that tuned in and watched. I see Andrea Main and Christian Martinez joined in as well at later stages. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay and put any comments or ask any questions. Again, everything I'm putting at the moment, I'm using the hashtag 10 steps to freedom, with the 10 and the 2 being numbers. You'll see it in the broadcast for this. So again, excuse me, watch out for that, because I use that on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Judy. I appreciate it. And my aim is just to bring value to you guys. So thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will catch up with you soon. Bye for now, guys.